My name is Korey Burris, and I'm from Texas. My story is kind of long, but well, it's it's what I went through. But and I've been through a lot more, but it's the gist of it. But when I was okay, my mom when she got pregnant, she was on contraceptives. She was, they wanted one kid at the time. My dad only wanted one, so, and I have an older brother, so when she got pregnant with me and had me, it was kind of like my dad had resentment for me, like from the get go, because he only wanted one kid. So anyway, everything was pretty normal for my young years, and but when I was like 9 years old, I started noticing, I started paying attention a little bit. My dad was never, he was at some of them, but he was always at my brother's sports games and stuff like that. But anyway, uh, when I was around 10 or 11, we were at Thanksgiving, and all the kids were outside playing. We were supposed to stay outside. Anyway, I went inside to get something to drink, and all the grown-ups were in there, and they were talking about how I was a mistake in their eyes or whatever, his eyes or whatever, they didn't know I was even in there. I went back outside, and it's just started thinking, and started things started making sense, and and anyway, uh, when he started, I started getting a little bit older, and he started punishing me in odd ways, like military ways, kneeling on uncooked rice, or doing the 6 inches, or putting your sitting on like you're in a chair up against the wall, but there's no chair there. Anyway, different stuff like that. He made me take a bath in a 55-gallon drum in the backyard. I mean, a couple times, just things like that. I was always getting in trouble, always getting grounded for long periods of time, just always getting spankings, and just, my brother was just the angel. But one of his favorite things to do was sit behind me with a belt, and he would put a mark about 3 or 4 inches above my nose and make me put my nose on the mark. And whenever he would sit behind me, and whenever I would go below the mark, he would hit me with the belt until I told him what he wanted to know, confessed or whatever it was. Uh, Things went on like that for several years, or a lot of years, my whole teenage years. And when I was 16 years old, it was January of 1993. I I remember like it was yesterday. Me and my buddies, we got out of school. It was a Friday. They were having this big party, for the weekend, and there's supposed to be a lot of people there, whatever. Anyway, we all, just me and two of my buddies, and they said we're gonna go home and take showers, and we'll meet back up and go to the party. Like, all right. So I went home and took a shower, got out of the shower, and one of my buddies called me and said, "Hey, we're not going to this party." And I'm like, "Well, why not? Everybody's going to the party. It's Friday night. What do you mean?" Anyway, uh, he said our other buddy, he said he shot himself, and I was like, "What?" It's like, is he okay? I mean, he shoot himself in the foot? What's going on? Because we went hunting all the time. It's just like, it was an unheard of act at the time. And he said, no, he blew his head off. And I was just, man, I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, I called another buddy of mine, and he came and picked me up, and I went to his house. And when I got to his house, there was cops everywhere. And uh, my buddy that had called me originally and told me that he had shot himself, his stepdad was actually the ambulance driver, and they lived about 4 houses down. And so yeah, it was crazy. But I got to the house, and the cops were all there, and there was a cop standing outside the door. And I told him I was going in there. He said, you're not going in there, whatever. And I said, yeah, I'm going in there. So he actually moved out of the way and let me go in there. And man, I shouldn't have gone in there. They just, I can never unsee the things I saw, which he wasn't in there no more, but it was just, the aftermath was there, and it was just, you just can't describe it. It's just nothing you ever want to see. Anyway, I stayed at the house, like, for a long time, and just trying to, because he had a younger brother, and he had sisters, and, I mean, the family is just, I just stayed there. I didn't even know what to do, just, anyway, um, when the funeral came about, it was, there was standing room only in, like, the parking lot, okay? There, you couldn't fit nobody else in the hallways or the foyer. And when we left, when we were on the funeral procession, it was like, there was over 5 miles of cars, just one continuous line, and it was just, it devastated the whole town, like, yeah, it was bad. So anyway, we went back to school, like, probably that Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was. Anyway, I couldn't stay there. I had to leave. I stayed there about 30 minutes before school, and, like, almost half the class left, and they didn't even try to come find us. They knew what was going on. It's just, the whole school had a heaviness about it. So anyway, I went on the best I could, with what I had, and which I knew God and I prayed, but I didn't really know Him, like you should. But I just, things continued the way they were at home, and I tried to stay happy, which was next to impossible. I wore a smile, but I wore clothes too. So, but the smile hid a lot of stuff, and it got pretty rough that year with my dad, and and just a lot of punishment and a lot of being tired. Being tired of the crap. The constant drama. Just, and I was 17 years old. And I thought I was at the end of my rope. At 17 years old, I thought I could not take any more. And Satan was putting those lies in my head, and I didn't realize what it was because he was using my own voice to lie to me. And it's like, just kept telling me I was worthless, that that was never be good enough, that because that's what my dad always told me too. You hear it so much you start to believe it. And so I got in a lot of trouble. I can't remember what it's for, around Thanksgiving. But I was grounded up until, I was supposed to be grounded all the way through New Year's or whatever it was. Anyway, so I anyway, I got ungrounded, and I went out, and me and my buddies, we had stole some Christmas lights. We were just playing a prank on the neighborhood. We had a bunch of wild reindeer and everything, and we had, like, a herd of reindeer at the store, and anyway, we were just goofing off, and we got pulled over by the cops, and they're asking me about the Christmas lights, and I'm like, oh, we haven't been doing anything, and they checked for my registration. So when I opened the glove box, a bunch of Christmas lights just came flooding out the glove box. So I was like, well, whatever, you got me. So, but I didn't know is when we were stealing Christmas lights that this guy had ran out there and trying to stop us, and he had grabbed onto my tailgate of my truck. I didn't know, but apparently I slung him off my truck. And so we were in some trouble, but they didn't arrest us. They said, the guy's not mad, just go home. You're going to have to pay for all the decorations. And, so I was in trouble again. And so, but that one's kind of worth it. It was pretty fun. But anyway, so I was grounded again. And then Christmas came, and I was still grounded. But New Year's was coming around, and I was like, man, I've been begging for me to get ungrounded. And so they let me be ungrounded for New Year's. Well, I lied to them and told them I was going to be somewhere, but I wasn't because we got kicked out because we had beer. And anyway, they called the cops and told them if they found me to arrest me because I'd been drinking. But they weren't going to find me. I was out in the woods somewhere. But anyway, the next day my truck was stuck, and I mean it was horrible stuck, and it's covered in mud. When I got home, one of my punishments was I had to wash my truck in the cold weather, and I had to wash the underneath of it too. I had to, and I quote, he said, "I got to be able to eat off the bottom of the truck." So anyway, and I hate being cold. So when I was underneath the truck spraying it and everything, I was just like, "I'm done. I'm done." It's like I'm finished. So I was like, it was my buddy had killed himself on January the 8th, and here it is, it's January the 1st of the next year, and I'm like, well, I'll just wait 7 more days or 6 more days, and I'll shoot myself and I'll be done with it. I won't have to worry about nothing. He's in heaven or wherever. I don't even know where anybody goes when that happens, but I'm not saying anything. I've had too many arguments about that. But anyway, um, yeah, I was just like, I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just gonna be done with it. So I went in the house, took a shower, and warmed up, and I went and grabbed the shotgun shell out of my brother's room, and I went and put it next to my TV because I was grounded in my room. And so I was just sitting there and watched TV, staring at that bullet for 6 days. And I never had a second thought about it, it never crossed my mind that this is a bad idea, so the closer it came, I was getting excited. I was like, yeah, I'm fixing to be out of here. I was feeling relieved. So the day, January 8th of 94, I was sitting on the couch watching a movie, and it was just me and my mom there. And she told me recently, she said, "You told me to go out and take the dog outside, and that's when you did it." So apparently I told her to take the dog outside. She said she was outside for 6.5 minutes, and it had all been done by then. But anyway, when she went outside, I ran to the back, and I grabbed the shotgun, and it was 12 gauge buckshot. And I went to the bathroom, and I locked. There's two doors. There's one with a sink, and then there's another one with a tub and a toilet and all that. I had both doors locked, and I sat on the toilet, and I loaded the gun, and I put the butt of the gun on the ground, and I stuck it under my chin, and I was like, "All right, man." I said, "On the count of three, we're out of here." And I didn't hesitate. I didn't think twice about it. I just 1, 2, and then I was done. And I don't remember anything for 2 weeks, but my mom said that when she came back in the house, I was sitting in the same spot that I was when she went outside, sitting on the couch. Looked like I was just watching TV, but she didn't understand why I had blood all over my whole entire body, and half my face was gone. And she called 911 about 4 or 5 times, and it kept being busy. And finally, she got a hold of them, and they all came to my house. And I'm sure my house is just like what I saw at my buddy's house. And but I had a helicopter. That's the only difference. I had a helicopter waiting right down the road from me. And they put me in the helicopter, and they flew me to Beaumont, Texas. And when I got there, I never lost consciousness. I was trying to write letters, and the whole time I didn't. I never went out. And anyway, I've talked to the nurses and stuff, and the helicopter people since then. And they said that when I got there, that they didn't know what to do. That I was unrecognizable as a human. They said it was just, and the doctors that they had there were not. They were not capable of what had to be done. So they stuck me back in the helicopter, and they flew me to Galveston, Texas, where I stayed for months and kept going back for months, just months and months. Anyway, I stayed there, and I started remembering things after 2 weeks. And the first thing I remember was that it's like, oh, well, you're a failure. How can you not kill yourself with a shotgun? Who can't do that? It was just like I just thought it was just all the problems that I had previously were just multiplied exponentially. And just so many more added. Just like that's all I could think about. You know, what am I gonna do? What is it like? Anyway, it's just it was a mess. But it didn't last too long. You know, once I figured out what was going on. Which I knew had happened, but the initial shock of why I'm still here, and I, I come down, and started talking to God, and we came to some agreements. But yeah, when the day that I started remembering, I looked in the bathroom, and my parents had put paper towels all over the mirror, so to cover up the mirror. So I was writing notes and like, why you got that over there? And my mom was like, well, we don't want you to see what you did. We don't want you to look at it. And I'm like, well, now I got to look at it, and which I was strapped down too, the whole time, strapped to the bed because I was trying to kill myself. So she unstrapped me and all that, and I made my way in there, and I ripped them off the mirror, and it was just like, I was just in shock. I was like, whoa. And it was crazy because all this here, all the way out to here, all that was just gone. It wasn't even there. It was just a hole. They had packing in there, but I took it out. And like with my mouth closed, I could go like that, and I could see my teeth over here with my mouth closed through my face. And it was just like, what are you gonna do? You know. And I had to deal with a lot. That's a lot to deal with. But I told God, I said, look, you saved me for a reason. I don't know what it is, but I'm just gonna keep asking you every day until I get an answer. And I told him, I said, I'm just, you gave me a second chance. I'm just gonna try to be the best person I can be, you know. And so I did. I went back to school and I was trying to do the best I could. And after high school, well, in high school, I met this girl. Well, I already knew her, but anyway, we started dating. And we dated off and on for like 10 years. We were supposed to get married, but it kind of didn't happen. But we're still friends now. I mean, we still talk, so, you know. But anyway, when I went to college, I met the girl that I married, and it was good. But we started doing drugs together, and I mean, we got pretty far out there, coke and just everything. So in 2000, well, I quit school and we got married and all that. Oh no, we didn't get married yet. I quit school because I couldn't pass the math. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But so in 2000, she was like, well, we decided to get married and have a kid. So we quit doing the drugs for a little while, and I got a job. And we had a kid, and it was hard for me to keep a job or get a good job because of discrimination. Anyway, I started using drugs again, and it got pretty bad out there. And started using meth and all kinds of stuff. Just, it was horrible. And everything that comes along with it, just cheating, fighting, stealing, just, everything. So anyway, in 2000, and I'm still asking God every day, why He saved me, but it's kind of like a habit now. And in 2005, I had a good job, and but I was buying drugs with the money, I was still broke. But anyway, one day at work, on the way home from work, I wasn't on drugs, but it was still in my system. But anyway, I got in an 18-wheeler wreck on the interstate at 80 miles an hour, and flipped my truck 5 times and the car on fire, and it was a bad ordeal. I didn't go to the hospital because I had drugs in my system, and they drug test you, and I already had 2 DWIs from the past, and before I got married. So I'm not going to the hospital, even though I wasn't, messed up on drugs. But anyway, my wife said I was slurring and everything else, which I got hit by the airbag. It knocked me out at 80 miles an hour. But so I just went home, went back to work the next day, actually. And they told me I was crazy. They told me to go home. They wouldn't let me work. So I was like, well, whatever. I went home and I started having some complications with my stomach and everything. But I got mad, you know. Well, I wasn't. I was frustrated. You know, everything was taking my job, my money, my car, everything. You know, and I had a family. You know, I had bills. And it's like, what am I supposed to do now? You know, and so I was sitting there and trying to get recuperated to go back to work. About 2 weeks after that, I had a violent seizure and broke both my shoulders at the same time. And I woke up, I didn't know where I was. I woke up to a guy carrying me running down the sidewalk. Like, you know, I was like, anyway, so now it's like I can't even if I have a job I can't work. I can't even move my arms. So I told God, I was like, you know, I got upset and started cussing and I was like, what the blank did you save me for? You know, it's like why do I have to go through all this? You know, why when is enough enough? You know, and it's like I was not expecting an answer, but an answer came back and it was an audible. It was, you know, he wasn't yelling, but it had great authority. So it's like, you listen to this one. So anyway, he said, I want you to help people with suicides. And I'm like, no. I said, that's not me. I don't, I said, I'm not fixing to get him to help. I said, that's not me. He said, that is you. I created you. That's what that's you. I'm like, ah. I'm like, no. I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So I told him no several times. And uh, I was like, so anyway, I started thinking about it. And I was like, okay, look, I'll make a deal with you. I said, uh, oh, wait, let me back up. When I said no, that, I, he put it in my head like a concert going off, help people, help people. It was driving me crazy. Okay, and that's all I could hear is just like constant. So I was like, okay, fine. You know, I'll do it. Okay, I'll help people. So whenever I said I would do it, it was like everything in my life that I didn't understand made sense. And it was like a light switch went off. And it was like, well, yeah, you know, it's like, how could I not see that? You know, and so anyway, it was crazy. So I started going back to church and doing what I could do for people. You know, I started doing the rape and suicide crisis center as an operator, like 6 days a week. You know, Monday. I mean, from like midnight to 6 a.m. The shift nobody wanted. I'm like, I want it, give it to me. And I kind of jumped in a little too deep at first. I started to get a little overwhelmed, so I had to reel back a little bit. But I kept doing it, and I started doing other little things here and there. But I I changed churches, but I was still going to church all the time. Got into prison ministry, and like for 6 years, man, my everything I needed was there. You know, I didn't ask for anything. I didn't ask anybody for money. You know, for bills or anything like that. Church was nothing, but it was always paid somehow. For 6 years, okay, God was teaching me how to live on faith. You know, and He was teaching me things like He knows I'm a hard learner. So I have to like go through things to learn them. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so I for 6 years I was doing good and having surgeries. I would have one operation done and then have a seizure and the other one would break and just this one's been operated on twice and this one's broke again for the fifth time. So it's an ongoing battle still. But anyway, in 2011 we decided to have another kid. So we had another kid and I went back to work because my father-in-law opened a bounce house business. He's like, that's a good idea. And I'm like, okay. He's like, they're balloons. How hard could it be? Well, that's the heaviest job I've ever had. And I was a welder. It's like heavier than that stuff. So anyway, with a broke shoulder, I did it for 3 years. And it was just like, I got back on the drugs because I was working 7 days a week, you know, instead of going to church 6 days a week. And I got back on the meth and we got way out there. I got to where I was renting out my truck. I was selling it. I was shooting it. It was bad. Anyway, it was horrible. horrible. And everything you can imagine that goes along with that. And we were cooking it in my shed. Bleh, horrible. Anyway, CPS kept getting called on us, and we would clean our systems out. We would drink bleach and orange juice so we could keep our kids and all that. And I got a tickle in my throat, you know.
What was it, Corey,
But that worked.
that put you
But
into
like 3 or 4
relapse?
times, I get tired of doing it. You know.
Right. Yeah. What was it that
Uh-huh.
got you in? What put
What?
you into
What? When
relapse?
I was working,
Yeah.
actually, that's coming. But I didn't consider that a relapse. I was just
Okay.
we weren't focused on quitting. We just quit. You know, it wasn't like it was
I
an issue at
gotcha.
that point. It became an issue when we were doing it that last time, like a big issue. But anyway, the last time they came, I quit. I said, I'm done. I'm done. And I quit. My wife couldn't quit. And they came and they did the swab thing and I failed and she was inconclusive. And I'm like, I said, I'm not, So I told them I wanted a urinalysis and they're like, we can't do that. I'm like, I got a cup in the kitchen. I'm fixing to pee in it. You're finna take it with you. And they're like, well, look. I'm like, I'm not joking. And so they said, well, look, tomorrow, they said, tomorrow you can go down and take a urinalysis, both of y'all. And so the next day, I went and we both did the test, and I passed and she failed. So I had to leave with the kids or they was going to take them. So I went to my mom's, and that was horrible. So I moved in with my friend and started drinking every day. I was drinking like a fifth a day. And but I was doing good because I wasn't doing dope, right? No.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was one day I was riding a bicycle and God spoke to me again and I was like, oh no. And he told me to prepare for battle and to get ready. He said, this world as you know it's not gonna ever be the same. And this is in 2015 and I sit here today and I'm like, oh wow, this world's not ever gonna be the same. You know, it's not ever gonna be the same as it was, you know, by far. And it's getting worse. But so I don't know. I don't know what he meant, but hey, I don't know. But anyway, I wasn't getting ready. I was drinking and drinking and drinking. Then, about 8 months of me being sober, I went to the hospital and because I had a bad sinus thing going on, and they did an arteriogram and pumped me full of dye. And when I felt the heat from the dye, that's what gave me the reservations. And I was like, oh man, I felt, you know, I was like, so I was like, I had that in my head. I'm like, I ain't fixing to do none of that. So about another month goes by, and I was working at this janky car lot, and the guy was a crook. You know, he sold the same car to like 3 or 4 different people, getting the down payment every time. It wouldn't even run right. And it's like he claimed to be a Christian guy, you know, and it's like, so finally, my name's on that stuff too. You know, I'm a mechanic working. So I went and said something to him. Look, man, that ain't good. You claim to be a Christian, you lying to all these people. And he got mad at me, and I was like, he said, I don't know if it's gonna work out. I said, it ain't gonna work out. So I started to leave, and I was halfway out the door, and he's like, yeah, you can't do nothing right. You can't even kill yourself right. And I'm like, so I stopped, and I
Wow.
went back in the his office, and I cleared the stuff off his desk and said, you need to come outside. So we finna go talk, and I was gonna rip his head off. But anyway, he grabbed this closet rod that was about 3 foot long, and I said, well, bring that with you. You're going to need it. So I was serious. I went outside and waited on him. And I looked in the side. He wasn't moving nothing. And the police station's like a block away. So I'm like, well, I better leave. So I left, and I was so mad. And my girlfriend at the time, because me and my wife had split up, she went to prison, and it was been a year and a half anyway. So the girlfriend, I had been with her for like a month, and she lived in Louisiana. And I was at her house, and she gave me a Xanax, and I knew not to take it, but I was like, I ate it, and I was drinking the whiskey, and it's like, no, just man, it's just started
Oh,
snowballing. I called my friend. Matter of fact, it was my friend that shot himself. It was his girlfriend at the time. Whenever he had shot himself, they were dating. Well, she's a drug pusher now, and she gave me a free $100 worth of meth and a needle, and I went and shot the whole thing. And but she's dead now too. She's yeah. Anyway, I shot the whole thing, and I was hot, so I went outside, and I had like a crumb on me and some weed, and I was texting on my phone, and some cops walked up behind me and were like, "Freeze!" And I'm like, And I mean, I was so high I couldn't even spell my name. I was so high, and it's like I was going to jail in a different state, and it's like, man, I didn't have any felonies, and now I'm looking at 5 years in Louisiana, a different state. And my son had been with me. He was 5 years old, and so I didn't know where he was going. He was with this girl that I knew for a month, and like, huh, yeah, what? Like, oh, you done messed up. So anyway, I was in jail, and I was so mad and angry, and I was just blowing up on everybody just for anything. They gave me the nickname C4 because I was just blah, was mad at the world. So this guy came in there about 2 days in, and I was going off about something. But he held a Bible out through the bars. He's like, "You want this?" And I was like, "Yes, I do, I do, I do." So he slid it to me, and I started reading it, man. I stayed in it for like 16 hours a day for almost 60 days. Well, I stayed in there 60 days, yeah. And anytime I woke up and felt anger, I would read it, or felt, alone, or felt the shame or anything. I would just break it out and read it. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I would just. That's all I had to do. That's the only hope I had. And because God took His hand off of me long enough for me to get myself thrown in there, so I could actually slow down long enough to do what I had to do. I wasn't preparing myself, and so I stayed in there, and that's all I did. I just stayed in the Bible, and I studied and studied, and I wrote down scriptures, and just kept going. And when I got out, I had nowhere to go. So my wife had got out like a month before like I was about a month in, and she got out, but we hadn't been together. So when I got out, she actually sold my truck and got me out, and so we got back together. And it was good for a little while, and I was reading the Bible for a little bit, but then I slacked off, and I was still trying to do good. I wanted to do good every day in my head, but I was slacking. So but I kept trying and trying and pushing, and so then this lady, she had to go to NA. So this lady NA, you know, she she put it in my head about starting a Facebook group, and I was like, wait. So then she kept on, so I did it, and after one day, I had 1,800 people in there, and it's just, it's amazing. It's called Suicide Prevention and God's Helpers on Facebook, and that's my ministry name, and
yeah.
I, I just, that's what I started doing, and I just kept pushing and pushing. And I went back to school. A ministry that I was in paid for me to go back to school and get my minister's license, and
Oh, good.
me and my wife had troubles, and she ended up going back to prison. She went back to prison, and she got out, and we were going separate ways. So we ended up getting divorced, and I just, I didn't let it affect me. I just more stayed focused on God, and just, I kept going and doing more and more, and the more I do, the closer it gets to me, and the more I can, obviously help somebody. And I went back to school again recently, and became a
Oh,
certified clinical Christian counselor. But I
oh,
don't. I just want the knowledge. I don't charge anybody. I don't feel like you should charge to be okay. Should pay to be okay. And I just help anybody wherever I can, when I can, and how I can. And I let God do what He does through me. And that's my little story. So
It's
I
one just
thank
a
you
little
for letting me
story.
tell
I
it.
read big old book and big old story. So I was wondering,
Well,
what is it? Because I know like the holidays is really difficult for everybody, and I think you were saying that it was kind of hard for you for a while there. Um, what would you tell people right now that are having a hard time, with the holidays and um, feeling more emotionally unstable right now, that they're thinking more desperate?
well, the only thing that helped me, and I've tried everything for 40 something years, was the Bible. I just got into the New Testament of Jesus and, who he was and who we are in him and our future's laid out for us. And it's, uh, it's our hope, our strength, our peace, we get wisdom. I mean, anything we could ever need in life, we get from his word. It's the living word for a reason. But also reach out to people. Definitely reach out to people because everybody wants to run and isolate. And when I speak, I always ask people, you know, what's the worst thing you can do? I mean, like, what's the worst punishment that can be brought on you if you're in prison? Well, they put you in solitary confinement. And you're sitting there, it drives you crazy because you're in there with your thoughts. And Satan's allowed to sit there and beat you up and beat you up and beat you up because you're isolated. That's what he wants you to do is isolate yourself. That's why we have these groups. That's why there's power in numbers. We're outside the box. We have input, fresh perspectives and insight to be able to help you and whatever the case may be. And I have to reach out sometimes too. He beats me up sometimes too. And says I'm not good enough, self doubt and everything else. But I brush it off and start. But instead of just brushing it off and sitting there sulking to myself, I reach out and start talking to somebody, get my mind off of it, and I mean that's it works. And when we talk to people about what's going on, it defeats the evil because in the Bible it says we overcome evil by the power of our testimony and by the blood of the Lamb. So if we're just telling people and we're testifying what's going on with us, then the devil it takes the power all away from him. So I mean, we're definitely in spiritual warfare. Like people just don't realize it,
Yeah.
And it's the closer I get to God, the more I realize it. And I still got to hit it hard every day. I drive around doing pizzas all day, so I'm able to listen to Bible studies in my car, and I listen to 4 or 5 hours of Bible studies every day. So I mean, I have to keep getting plugged in, and it's a never-ending battle. No days off in Christ. You can't take a day off because He's not going to take a day off.